Okay, I have actually changed my mind on this experiment that I'm doing on my 5-story multi-generational passive ICF house that I've been DIY building. So for those of you who haven't been following, what the experiment was is whenever you do ICF blocks, then just a natural part of working with ICF, especially when you're DIY building and it takes you a while, is UV radiation ends up creating this yellow dust that you see on the side of the house. And so when I originally thought about having to scrape all of that off on this particular wall, which is 35 feet, I was like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to do that, especially because part of it's done on a ladder. So I did the experiment where I used my blue rubber membrane that's currently behind my aluminum radiant barrier, and it's actually sticking really well. We've had 20-mile-an-hour gusts today, not moving at all. But thinking about it long term, especially when I was applying the rubber paint, I could see that it was pulling up some of the dust, mixing with it. I thought, you know what, long term, it's not as strong as if it was just on the white EPS versus mixing with the yellow dust. And it's only going to take me maybe an extra half a day or a day to go ahead and strip it off, and really that's best practice, and so I decided to go ahead and do it. So that's what you see right there is my extension pole. Got a metal bristle, so I have been using plastic bristle just on a broom. That works really well, but I can tell you, pay the $18 or whatever that it cost me to get the metal bristle one, that works really well, and you don't have to do as many passes. So I go up to the top, I lay down, and I'm able to get most of it. You can actually see the little yellow, let's see, there we go, right there. You can see the little yellow spot that I'm not able to reach from the top. I'm able to do it from the bottom up, get most of it, and then I pull out the ladder, and I only have to climb up maybe 5 feet to get that last little spot. So, yeah, my overall thoughts on the experiment is yes, it would probably work, but I know that by taking a little bit of extra time, knocking off the dust, then when the rubber paint binds to the EPS and then binds to the aluminum radiant barrier, then it's going to work a lot better. And as far as why the aluminum radiant barrier, for a couple of reasons. One, it's actually going to be a rain screen, so I'm going to be putting battens every 16 inches. So the 1x3 battens give me a 3/4 of an inch, which is what you need for that radiant barrier to actually work. You need at least 3/4 of an inch. And because I am doing metal siding, then especially here on the west wall, it's going to get really, really hot. And that heat will try to radiate into my ICF blocks. I've got 8 inches of concrete. I really would like to keep them nice and cool. I do have 2.5 inches foam, but when it comes to radiant heat, that radiant is able to pass through whatever for up to like 4 feet. So by putting in the radiant barrier that you see behind me, which wasn't that expensive, it was a couple $100 for the entire house, then that reflects back 95% of that radiant heat. And then it'll also double as my house wrap. So in terms of air tightness, this thing's gonna be crazy airtight. I would not be surprised if I'm down in like the 0.2 ACH at 50, as long as on the blower door score, as long as I do my windows correctly and my doors, which I plan on doing. So it'll help with that. And then as a rain screen, any water that gets behind the metal siding is just going to go shooting right down the radiant barrier, the quote-unquote house wrap. So and it's also a class 1 fire barrier. So that's another nice little benefit. In terms of UV, there's people who have had it exposed for 4 years. I don't plan on having this exposed for 4 years. As cool as it would be to have a silver sculpture house, yeah, we're just going to go with boring black and white siding. And so anyways, that's some of the benefits of taking the time to go ahead and do it this way. The reason for the blue, so it's Blue Max, is the elastomeric, basically a rubber paint. And so what I do is I'm able to paint a 4-foot section. By the time I get down to the bottom, then it's dried enough so that it's really nice and tacky. And I go back up to the top, and then I'm able to put the radiant barrier, and it sticks like crazy well to the rubber paint, and then I'm off and running. So rinse, repeat all the way across this western wall. And for anyone who's wondering why there are no windows, well, one, you do see some, there we go, right there. You do see some 2x4s that are still there. I'll be taking those off. I only have 2 penetrations, one right there for a dryer vent in the garage, and then one way up there at the top. That's actually my experiment. It's a 6-inch pipe. That'll be my experiment for the passive way of cooling the house, as well as letting out humidity, because it is 48 feet. I've got 13 feet below grade. That's 48 feet of the stack effect. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure up on the top level, that 5th level. And I've got one 6-inch pipe on one side, one 6-inch pipe on the other side. And it'll be interesting to see if that actually does end up letting out both the humidity as well as the heat during the summer. So yeah, because the way that I plan on cooling the house is with night flushing. So I live in a high mountain desert, and so we get really hot temperatures in the daytime, so it can be up to 100 degrees. But then at night, it drops down into the low 60s. And so all the heat that accumulates during the day, I'll be flushing out through those 2 6-inch holes at night to cool the house. And then the 8 inches of concrete acts like a thermal battery, helps keep the house cool. 2.5 inches of foam on both sides also helps with the heat as well. But yeah, going back to, there are no windows on the west side of the house. And the reason why is because it's the west side of the house. So even in the winter time, you can overheat a passive house if you have too many windows on the west. And then in terms of views, yeah, I've only got views of the houses across the street. Now, when you get all the way to the roof, then we do have some epic views. I mean, I'm able to see the lake, I'm able to see the mountains on the other side. And then just another quick little thing in terms of with a passive house design, and that is normally you do not want to put very many windows on the north side. But you can see we put a lot of windows on the north side. In fact, some very big windows on the north side. This actually right behind me, that's the garage. But up above it, in those 2 living rooms, those are 10-foot wide windows. And downstairs, for the 2 living rooms downstairs, that is also 10-foot wide windows. And the reason why we have, and then check out the master bedrooms. So that master bedroom, those are like 8-foot tall windows. Over here on the other side, that master bedroom window over there also has a 8-foot tall window. Both of those are kid bedrooms. They also have really nice big windows. And the reason why we have the big windows is because of that. The view is just absolutely amazing. But yeah, like I said, normally with a passive design, you don't want to put in big windows unless you have a view like that, and then you just go ahead and do it. And so yes, it won't be as energy efficient as it could be, but that view, that's worth it. So anyways, be sure to like and subscribe so you can follow along on this crazy journey as we DIY build this thing. Thanks for watching.